The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA. You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray go off, and when they shoot like hell, like absolute fire, this is gonna be like
140, 127, and all they had to do was shoot 18 of 32 from 3-point range and 61% from the field.
Approved.
But they did so versus the number one defense in the NBA, one of the best defensive teams that we've ever seen.
And Matt, those were open shots. I will maintain. Yep.
Great process.
They were great process shots. This was exactly what the Nuggets were trying to do. They accomplished their game plan better than the Thunder could. I thought that this was a fantastic game plan drawn up by Malone, drawn up by the Nuggets coaching staff. I think that is going to get kind of tossed under the rug by a lot of folks that just want to point out the bad stuff and avoid the good stuff. This was great open shot process by everybody. And Jokic trusted guys, Murray trusted guys, Peyton Watson goes 4 of 4 from 3. Christian Brown doesn't play well in the first half and then plays pretty well in the second half, I'll say. And just a lot of contributors all across the board in a game where, Denver couldn't really get that many stops either. They struggled on defense, but it doesn't matter when you're on fire, and they were on fire tonight.
They certainly were. It was a great offensive process. They just played really, really, really well. And this is a game that I think you can go back and forth eternally on, where the Thunder fans are going to be like, well, J-Dub was out at the half. And like, J-Dub's a better player than Aaron Gordon. He just is. Like, he's been a better player than Aaron Gordon this season.
Aaron was out for the whole game.
Yeah. And J-Dub, got hurt early and missed and was out at the half. Aaron was not out for the entire game, but he was out for most of it. He was out for longer. Yeah, he played the meeting or on this one, but I mean, yesterday.
No, I'm talking about this game specifically.
I gotcha. Yeah. And I think you can just kind of go back and forth on this. So it's like, well, it's a back-to-back, and it's a back-to-back for both teams, and on and on and on and on. Denver continues to be absolute nails on back-to-backs. So I want to take like a big picture thing here and just tell you, hey, this is kind of what I mentioned yesterday, is like that episode aged beautifully for me. Beautifully for me. I was like, hey, Jamal Murray looked good, got open looks, just missed them. Cha-ching. Hey, the Nuggets actually had some good things going there. Bing. Like, it was good. But the big picture overall, they're 2-2 versus the Thunder. They split the season series with Oklahoma City. Not many teams have done that. Yeah, probably more than OKC wants. It's like, if you look amongst the playoff teams, like, probably more than they wanted. It's great to have all these wins versus the Eastern Conference, but like, you'd rather have it versus the Nuggets. And while it's not going to matter for tiebreaker, but it does mean that Denver has shown, like, hey, yes, they were without J-Dub, we were without AG. Process-wise, strength on strength, we can split with these guys. And that matters. It just does. It just matters.
And especially when you've got the experience advantage like Denver does. And like you talked about this. I don't know if it was online or offline, but you talked about 2-2 in a 2-2 series, get to a game 5, get to a situation where they were up by a little bit. You come roaring back. The building is getting quiet. Everybody's getting antsy. And you're like, okay, now you have to play basketball. And I'm just going to sit here and say that as long as Jokic and Murray are healthy, as long as Denver's process remains good, like, they have a shot. They do. And I have maintained that throughout the entire time. I don't think it's a good shot. I'm not going to sit here and lie, but I do think that because here's the thing. They still gave up 127. They still gave up a whole bunch of open shots. Like, this was
I think, not to go down this road, because we just got to talk about how great the win was, but like, I think that's part of what frustrates you, is like, you're stuck in limbo where you're like, I can't count them out, but I can't believe in them either.
Yeah. And like, I want to believe in them. Like, here's the thing. The analyst side of me wants to like see what's happening here and be like, okay, so I know what the process is supposed to look like, and the process hasn't been that for the entire year. The fan side of me is like, okay, Jokic and Murray, I've watched this team. I've watched Michael Porter and Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown and guys like that win a championship before. It's not that different from the year that they won it. So that's the thing, is like, it's very difficult to parse those two things for me. And I'm glad that you get games like this and tough situations like this, and where they can show off that resiliency, because they haven't had that many times where they've just been great against these top tier teams. This was really the first one in a while, Matt.
I have two hot takes. My first hot take is that they peaked too early last year, and now they're peaking at the right time.
Wow.
That's hot take number one. Here's hot take number two. And this is just me tripling down on what I already put out there. That Jamal's playing better than he did all of last year. This is better. This is the best basketball Jamal has played since at least 2023 and maybe ever. He's playing awesome. Everything that Jamal's doing. Jamal ran Alex Caruso. Caruso got him on one possession in the fourth quarter. Second quarter, third quarter, Jamal ran Caruso off 3 screens and was bursting and did not look like it was. There were times early this season when he was in that struggle mode where it was like, yeah, you run him out of screens, but the guy's like right behind him because he's got no burst. It was effortless. Like Jamal was able to get into those shots clean. Yeah. It was such a phenomenal job of navigating space because his body is back to wherever it needed to be. Maybe it wasn't the body. Maybe there was nothing wrong. Maybe it was the spirit. Maybe it's the vibe. I don't know. But this is the Jamal Murray that won a championship for the Denver Nuggets. This is the Jamal Murray that is capable of going off for 50 in a playoff series, putting up a 30-point triple-double, winning an NBA championship, and that fundamentally changes things. And if we are going to have torn him down, rightfully so, the way that everybody in this town did for 3 months, we owe it to a player that has given what he has to the city of Denver to lift him up now and say, this guy's playing awesome basketball.
100%. And like, people weren't dumb when they graded him out as like a top 20 or borderline top 20 player in the NBA following 2023. He played at that level. He was that guy. It's really difficult to parse sometimes when he was a little bit inconsistent in the regular seasons, but then was a killer in the playoffs and a killer in basketball, like in just those tough situations that so many other guys falter in. So it's been really impressive to watch him overall. And like, this is, if they give this version of him again, they always have a chance because he can get to the places that he needs to go. And he's just a tough shot maker. So many of the shots that he was hitting, Matt, like these were the double clutch pump fakes, jumping up in the air around the contest at the basket. And he's making them. And it's just so impressive the way that he's contorting his body and just using his athleticism to his advantage now. It's just not something that he had done a lot.
Chet Holmgren was plus 32 yesterday. He's a minus 20 tonight. So I guess he's a plus 12 on the 2 games, which I guess is like, that's a good net. But
you know who I want to give a lot of credit there? 2 guys that spent a lot of time defending Chet Holmgren today were Michael Porter and Russell Westbrook. Mm-hmm. I thought that both of those guys were a lot more improved just in terms of that matchup specifically. Murray got caught a couple of times fouling him. Chet does this really good spin where he then throws his arms through the contest. It's impossible not to foul him in that situation because of how good he is at getting to that spot. But Russ did a great job, and he underrated game today, much better than he was previously in this last game. And then Michael Porter, less points, plus 10 in a game as opposed to minus 33 in the game yesterday. And there are some.
Do you think Mike played well?
Do I think Mike played well?
Yeah.
I thought he played all right. Yeah.
On another day, we will
be another day, huh?
we will talk about the transition defense of Michael Porter Jr. and how I am going to gouge my eyes out with a rusty nail if I have to watch him jog back while his guy hits another open corner 3. It's killing me. It's killing me inside.
He amped it up in the fourth quarter, I will say that.
Yeah, and just once the momentum got going, they absolutely ran over him.
Yeah,
And, like,
that's just an important aspect of things. Like that was what OKC had done previously to them. So the fact that Denver can do it to OKC does give me some confidence in this matchup again. They're like, look, there were a lot of folks, and I know that there's actually I'm going to save that. That's going to stay in house.
Okay.
I can't say it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that one after the lights go off.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. There's always some underdogs to play. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, game props, and more. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to find. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. And with conference tournament season in full swing, you could turn that $5 into $200 in bonus bets tonight. The Big 12 tournament tips off with Kansas State facing Arizona State. K-State favored by 5.5, according to FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoop action all tournament long.
The Knicks needed a big win, and boy, did they get one.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast.
All right, Gavin, let's get into this big win. Admittedly, it was a late one. We were both dozing a little bit, so we're recording this in the morning. 133-104, the Knicks win over the Kings. And to me, I don't think this is a hot take. I mean, he wasn't quite the high scorer, but OG Anunoby had his fingerprints all over this one. I feel like he made his case for being the guy who might be the difference maker to step up during this time with Brunson out right now. But just a really phenomenal effort overall for him. 24 points, 8 assists, 7 boards. Was attacking the basket with reckless abandon, but also like making really smart reads out of that. Stuff that like passes that we haven't really seen out of him, I feel like, since early on this season, when he was attacking from the corners and making nice passes. And, a lot of it goes to the whole team game plan of just cutting and, just running around and being active the entire game. But I thought that this was just a really standout performance for OG. 5 steals also, which I didn't even bring up.
Yeah, it was a complete game from him. A career high 8 assists, we should note, which is assuming StatMuse is not lying to me. I was shocked to see he's never had more than 6 assists in a game, which for someone who's been like a third or fourth option for a couple of years, I would say is a little bit of an indictment on his passing. But this is not the night to talk about what OG hasn't done in the past, because he was exceptional and the whole team was exceptional, frankly. And look, you can look at the Kings and say, all right, it's not the Lakers, it's not the Celtics, it's not the Cavs, it's not even the Clippers in terms of an impressive win specifically without Domantas Sabonis, but they haven't been a terrible team post-trade deadline, right? They were 8-6, they were 16th in defense, and I think over their last 14 games post-deadline. But I think even more notable, Alex, is just how bad the Knicks offense has been, even with Jalen Brunson, right? 13, 14 games post-deadline coming into this one, 17th in offense over that stretch, mostly with Brunson on the floor. And they completely break out in this game. And you could look to Mikal, you could look to OG, you could look to Deuce. But just across the board, guys were very, very aggressive and confident. And I think that was sort of the unifying theme in this offensive performance. I thought OG from the get-go, and look, he was aggressive against the Clippers and it didn't look as good. So maybe some of it is like the Kings just didn't really have a wing with Keegan Murray guarding Karl-Anthony Towns that was physical enough to defend him. But like his first play of the game was like a pump and go corner 3. The defense, you said it was like absolutely exceptional the whole night. Like he just consistently ate up space, got into Jonas Valanciunas' body, both in the half court and in transition. The passing was as good as, to the point of the career high, as good as we've ever seen from him. I think he might have had my favorite pass of his of the entire season. One of my favorite is the Knicks, where he had a pump and drive on DeMar and he was staring at the rim like he was going to shoot and kind of baited Jonas Valanciunas to step up and then just dropped like a no-look bounce pass to Mitchell Robinson for a layup, or excuse me, it was to Cat for a layup. And I was like, wow, I didn't really know he had that in him. Hit it off the dribble, step back three, had this possession towards the end of the first half where he shut down DeRozan, switched on to Levine, shut him down too. He was rebounding the whole night, just a complete game, getting in passing lanes. Couldn't have played much better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to ever call an injury like a blessing in disguise or something, and it's definitely not. Like, I'd much rather have Brunson on the floor right now, but I do think that like this game was the first one where they didn't look like they were scrambling in life without Brunson. Like, it was like they came out with a different game plan, and we sort of saw, there were brief times where Brunson had to miss time last year, and it forced the Knicks to play a different way, and I think sort of led to the breakouts of Hart and Dante DiVincenzo in that way. Like, after Brunson had that knee scare and then had to miss like about 2 weeks, which is about what he's projected to miss with this ankle sprain, if the reports are to be believed, then, they were kind of forced to approach the game a little differently, embrace ball movement more, be less in that mode of just kind of watching Jalen work. And, I think that's Tibbs's preferred way of doing things, but maybe this will even wake Tibbs up a little bit of like, this team is just made up of like great cutters, great shooters, guys that need, to be in motion to make things work. And, we saw in this game, I think, there was a lot of Hart also. I mean, Hart didn't get the gaudy assist numbers to, back it up, but he was initiating a lot of the offense too, and then setting up the pass that set up the pass. So, I mean, if there was hockey assists tabulated in this game, he probably had like 6 or 7, just by virtue of being the guy to just kind of get downhill first, kick it out to someone who then maybe they get downhill, or maybe they just kick it to another shooter. It was just really beautiful stuff. I mean, it was just a lot of that sort of movement, and OG was right at the middle of that, I feel like, as the main catalyst and the main guy that they were looking for. Obviously you had, Cat continued his kind of resurgence with 26 points and looked a little more comfortable in this game, and kind of got that historic efficiency back a little bit with the 53% from the field, 50% from three, almost 80% from the free throw line. Like, so you like to see him kind of getting his groove back in only 28 minutes. He only had to play 28 minutes and had 26 points. But OG, I think just kind of found that other gear, and a little different than, in a little different way than some of his bigger scoring performances on the year, like the Denver game, for example, where he was just mega hot shooting the ball. This one, it felt like a more complete effort, just looking to get his points in a variety of ways, looking to, create for others. I thought that he just kind of did a little bit of everything in this game. And, it was just kind of he was like the flag bearer for an overall different style of ball in this game, and the Knicks executing that style of ball for like the full 48 minutes, which I think is probably the biggest thing that they don't do sometimes with Brunson out there, when Tibbs just kind of settles into the prevent offense, if we want to call it that, of just, trying to, hold a lead or whatever late in the game, and then ultimately shooting themselves in the foot sometimes when they rely a little too hard on, just having Brunson ISO every play for the whole last quarter or so of the game.
Yeah, I think Mikal and Hart are ultimately the two guys that you're going to find initiating offense. I thought the mistake they made to some extent against the Clippers, partially was just that the Clippers are a fantastic defensive team. Without Brunson, the Knicks really aren't equipped to attack them. But Mikal and Hart are the two guys who still, like, especially when they get the ball on the move, have some ability to create an advantage off the dribble, right? That's not really Deuce McBride's game. Cat can create an advantage, but he can't capitalize on that advantage, at least as a passer, right? And it's why you saw Cat against the Clippers, and then Cat a little bit at the onset of this game. I compare it to, this is a very niche reference, but if anyone's seen the Shane Gillis, like, blind guy at a wedding sketch where he's just like stumbling around, like sprinting into people, it's less problematic than it sounds with how I'm describing it. But anyways, that is kind of Cat on offense at times, where he is just driving into 2, 3, 4 guys and just knocking them over and hoping he's on the right end of a foul call. I think we saw the Mikal Bridges in this game that I frankly, Alex, expected to see this entire year. And I thought we'd be getting the entire year. And in that Clippers game, like I shared that tweet that Prez put out, like breaking down his usage, where like most of his offense is incidental offense. And he's been treated like a fifth man all year, right? It's like go score in transition, go score off cuts, go be a spot up shooter. And it's treating a guy that you gave a premium of picks up for and are presumably going to pay a premium contract to, like he's Landry Shamet. And last night they remembered that, like, hey, Mikal Bridges is like, I mean, he was the number one guy on a team for a year and a half. You can question how qualified he is for that, but he can do some of those things. Like early in this game, like had a catch, strong push dribble to the middle of the lane, no look out to Josh Hart for three. You give it to him with a little momentum. Like he's not someone who's going to create from a standstill, but a dribble handoff, you run him off the screen into a catch, it is generally going to go well. Like another one where Hart just like dribbled at him hard, dribble handoff, Mikal gets on the move, goes into Trey Lyles, takes a bump, still finishes. The play of the night to me was him. This is something Manu Ginobili on the Spurs always did, right? Not waiting for the ball to get to you, sprinting into a catch, beating Lyles off the dribble, and then dunking around Keegan Murray. Like it was far and away the most aggressive drive we've seen from him this entire season. There was another one where he got a rebound and off a live dribble, just hit Shamet for a layup. Like he is capable of creating shots for other people. And to your point, with Jalen Brunson getting hurt, Tom Thibodeau has to lean into that a little bit. And hopefully when Brunson's back, it's something he remembers that Mikal Bridges is more than capable of doing.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. There's always some underdogs to play. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, game props, and more. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to find. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. And with conference tournament season in full swing, you could turn that $5 into $200 in bonus bets tonight. The Big 12 tournament tips off with Kansas State facing Arizona State. K-State favored by 5.5, according to FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoop action all tournament long.
The Heat have reached a new low point of the season on Monday night.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast.
The Heat lose to the Hornets 105-102 in a game where, and stop me if you've heard this before, they at one point led by double digits, and they blew another double-digit lead. They led by 17 points in the first half. They had a lead in the fourth quarter, and they could not pull this one out. It's Charlotte's first division win of the season, so congrats to the Hornets, I guess. The Heat had a chance to win this one late. Bam had a couple of three-pointers at the end, made one, airballed another. The Hornets even tried to give this game away when Nick Smith Jr. fumbled the ball out of bounds. Tyler Hero's potential game-tying three clanks off the front of the rim. And David, the Heat keep finding new ways to lose, and this loss marks a new low for the season. What stood out to you?
Not a whole lot. You and I were talking before the game, and it just seems like this team doesn't know how to win anymore. Like they can't do anything well enough to secure a victory. And I think that's probably my biggest takeaway from all this is just watching this team. They don't know what they're doing anymore. They give up on themselves. There's a kind of lack of continuity, a lack of understanding of who's out there on the floor, maybe a lack of faith in one another. You see effort, although I would imagine it wanes over the course of games, and you see it, especially in the fourth quarter when they're not trying as hard. But other than that, it seems more psychological than anything else. I honestly, I know there's a talent discrepancy maybe, but
Not in
you
this
can't
one.
make that argument again. Yeah, you can't make that argument when it comes to the Hornets. Although Miles Bridges wound up having a monster game, and it's not that they were defending him poorly, but he just wound up shooting some incredible shots and hitting them at a high rate. Other than that, you just watch this team go, and they just don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems kind of undefinable at this point because every game just seems like a new low. It's okay. You had it versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Monster game from Bam Adebayo. You're challenging the best team in the league. Maybe that gives you some kind of motivation or reason to find a way to play your best basketball. And they did. They played really good. Wound up losing, but they played really well against that team. and then you kind of lose 2 in a row. A good game against I wouldn't say bad Minnesota team, but not necessarily an inspiring one. And then you go out again the next night and you drop another one to the Chicago Bulls inexplicably. And then tonight. And there's only so many ways you can say it's inexcusable. And yet here we are with another new low point in the season. Every game seems like an opportunity to crap the bed even more completely than you did before. Like, you missed the spot. Let's make sure that we hit it, because that's exactly what they're doing tonight.
On the bright side, it doesn't get worse than this. No, you lose to the Clippers. They're better. Like, they don't play another team worse than Charlotte all season. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They play the Wizards on March 31st. So there's a chance maybe at the end of the month to get worse than this. But for a while, it doesn't get worse than this. So there's a bright side. I was just watching the other night that episode of Seinfeld where George decides to do the opposite.
Yes.
Okay. And one of the B storylines in that episode is that everything always breaks even for Jerry.
Yep. Even Steven.
There are teams in the league that are Jerry, that everything just doesn't matter. They just break even. The Cavaliers, it just works out for them. It doesn't matter what the first 3 quarters look like. It works out for Cleveland. It works out for the Cavs. It works out for the Boston Celtics. They can take a bunch of threes. They can miss 8 of them in a row. It doesn't matter. They break even. They figure it out. It all works out. It always works out for Jerry. It always works out for these good teams. The Heat are like George before he decides to do the opposite, where no matter what's going on in George's life, at the end of every episode, it ain't going to end well. And that's the Miami Heat. They could be up 17 points. They could have a new job, convince a new girl that he really is an architect, whatever it is. And then by the end of the episode, something wrong happens for George. And that's the Miami Heat. So I don't know if the lesson in this is just the Heat have to just do the opposite of everything that they've been doing this whole time. But the Heat are George Costanza right now.
It's got to start, like, let's say they've gone with their big lineup. That's not working. Let's go small. If going big isn't working, let's just go small. Haywood Highsmith at center.
No, go smaller.
Go smaller?
Terry Rozier at center. Two-way contract, Isaiah Stevens. 5'11", Isaiah Stevens. Put him at the 5.
Jaime Jaquez Jr. is your point guard. I mean, just do whatever. Just the exact opposite.
Well, the point is, right, like the whole George thing, right, is it's the opposite of what his instincts are.
Right.
And so whatever the Heat's instinct is in any given moment, it feels like it's always been the wrong decision. So maybe to your point, this is a team that's lost its way. It doesn't know how to win anymore. It doesn't really figure it out. The thing that stood out to me in this game, they don't play with a sense of joy. It feels like a lot of guys going to work and not really enjoying their job. And I know that joy is a loaded term in Miami these days, but I think there is a trauma that has set in place after the Jimmy Butler drama, and there's an emotional fatigue weighing on this team, and I just don't know if this is ever going to be the season for the Heat. Like, they could turn it around and move up the standings and maybe get into that 8-9 spot of the play, or the 7-8 spot of the play-in tournament or whatever. But at the end of the day, this is just going to be a George Costanza situation where it's over, you know?
I don't buy it that they're capable of turning the season around. I just don't see it anymore. Like, they've had the opportunities already to turn the season around. We talked about the emotional weight that they were bearing before the All-Star break and needing that break to kind of reset, cleanse yourself a little bit. You get Tyler with his opportunity to show out, and he does. He does a fine job, wins the 3-point contest, whatever. And it's from that moment forward, you're kind of got a clean slate. It's like, all right, we've got our team. This is who we are. No more Jimmy. That's it. The distraction's gone. It hasn't helped. Again, and this isn't even just the nuts and bolts of not having an all-star level player like Jimmy to kind of save your butt every once in a while. This is just, there's something going on there between the ears. And I think it kind of trumps the lack of talent or anything else. And it's just, it's not, it's not going to get any better. Like, I don't see it. Like, I'm not,
like
I don't have any
destiny
faith.
Thing. They expect to lose at this point.
Yes.
Which is wild. This is the Miami Heat. Their whole thing is we expect to overcome XYZ and we never expect to lose and we outperform our expectations. That's the whole thing. They've lost their identity here, and it's easy to figure out why. Like, it's not rocket science. Like that Jimmy Butler trade saga. I'm telling you, the players in that locker room knew about that stuff months before it kind of made a head in the national media, right? Like, this had been going on all season. And I don't think that anybody took it for granted. I know the Heat tried to put their head in the sand and say, well, this is just a business and whatever. It's not. Right. This is a very unique business where the guy that's in the locker next to you, who you have a relationship with, all of a sudden doesn't want to be your teammate anymore and is doing everything in his power to force his way out. And in the ugliest divorce he's ever created.
Oh, no.
And that's that kind of thing. I know we throw around the word trauma maybe too much these days, but for lack of a better term, like that is a thing that traumatized the locker room, it feels like. And this team, it feels like everybody just needs a break. Eric Spoelstra after the game says, we just have to stay together and use this as a group opportunity and overcome something that sucks. And we're going to figure this out. Also said, you can fold the tent or you can keep on forging and forging and forging. And that's what our group is going to do. Well, they're going to keep forging their way until the offseason. They have to play these games. And that just feels like the only thing that's left. Just play the games, get to the offseason.
Yeah, you can't just talk your way out of this one. Like, I really appreciate what Spo is trying. And he's trying to be the calm, steadying presence. Because you've heard so many players say that they dislike the kind of emotionality that wavers over the course of a season. If you show too much emotion, it's dangerous because you know what? That's just, you want the coach to be the calm voice in the middle of the eye of the storm here. And I can appreciate what he's trying to do. He has to be supportive. He has to put this out there, but I'm also just not buying it. Like, I think it's just too deep rooted. Like I don't know where the effort has to come from. I'm not sure if you can't pin it on any one player.
They need to play with joy again. They need to have fun. They're not having fun out there. And I'm in, when the Heat come into town, I go into the visiting locker room a lot, and it's so stark the difference